Welcome, Coyote Nation, to episode 8 of the Howling podcast. I am Jordan Decker. Catch me on X at JD605. Catch us, the Howling podcast, at Howl With Us 3 on X as well. I'm joined tonight by Mark Wendt, Chad Berger. Just a disclaimer, the opinions expressed on this podcast are that of Mark, Chad, and myself, and are not affiliated with USD or USD Athletics. Gentlemen, welcome to the post D-Days episode. How are we doing tonight?
We survived D-Days.
I'm feeling good. Yeah, I'm ready to rock and roll. Excited for what happened this past week, and ready to talk about what's coming up for the Oats.
Amen. Hey, 3-day weekend too. It couldn't have fallen on a better weekend. Sunday fun day. Anyone else?
No, I had to take a PTO day tomorrow to get my 3-day weekend, which I did. So,
yeah,
good.
Well, you can follow Mark on Twitter or X at WDiamond605, and you can follow me at Chad Berger. And as Jordan mentioned, go ahead and follow our show podcast Twitter account at Howl With Us 3. You can even DM us, and all of us will get that. Tonight, we're live on YouTube, so if you're watching, go ahead and feel free to comment. Those comments may be featured on the show as you're watching. So we'll try to interact with the audience as we go. To start off with, we are going to talk a little bit about our sponsor for the program. Our sponsor is the Wakanda Peach Company. You can follow Wakanda Peach Company at Wakanda Peach on Twitter or X. And Wakanda Peach Company, get all your peach needs in Wakanda or near Wakanda. Coming up, more news for that in the future. So
yeah. Never know.
Yeah, never know. So we'll figure that out. So Mark's got some swag there. I know we love the Wakanda Peach Company and supporting our sponsor. Last week results for the Coyotes. The men's golf hosted the throwdown up top at Land Band in Nebraska, and the A team finished in 5th place at +8. Cole Witherow got 3rd with -4, and Max Schmidtke finished in 7th place with a -2. The B team also got 11th place at the event, shooting a +45. The women's golf squad was at Loyola Parkinson Family Invitational and finished 7th overall. Couple top 20 finishers for the Yotes. Ella Greenberg finished in 11th place at +7. Emma Henningsen finished in 20th place at +11. And the women's triathlon team had the West Regional Championship in Springfield, Missouri, and they finished in 4th place. Alexa and Kayla both finished in the top 25, so we're really proud of them.
Mm-hmm.
Soccer Friday night played up in Brookings, South Dakota, and USD defeated SDSU 1-1 in that one. So optimal. That's a great soccer joke. I don't know if you like it or not, but 1-1 was the final on that one. Football hosted UNI, obviously the D-Days event on Saturday there, and USD came out on top 42-17. And volleyball was up at North Dakota on Thursday night, and USD pulled out the victory 3-2. We're going to talk a little bit about the football and volleyball games in just a little bit. And Mark, tell us about this picture on the screen right here.
Yeah, so long ago, shortly after Chris Nielsen won his pole vaulting silver medal at the Olympics, I was walking into Hy-Vee in Vermilion, and he was literally right in front of me. And I thought, Mark, be brave and ask Chris for a picture in front of the produce aisle at Hy-Vee. And I was too scared to do it. And so finally on Saturday, I finally got my picture with Chris Nielsen. And so that's the photo we're looking at there. 2 young gentlemen, Chris and myself. Really proud of that. That's going to end up on my wall for sure. So shout out, Chris. Thanks for taking the pic with me.
All right. Well, yeah, nothing like photobombing someone else's picture to get your photo with a celebrity. Excellent news. Well, that's kind of the week that was. We're going to dive a little bit more in depth into a couple of those things. But before we do that, we're going to go ahead and bring back a segment that we introduced last week. And that segment is called On the Couch with Dr. O. So Dr. O is here with us today.
Hello. Well, it turns out that the needs of this podcast carry forth for another week. The psychologist is in. I'm glad to be here. Thank you for the invite. We're back on the couch. Turns out that I have a few more things to chat about with Jordan. How was your week, Jordan?
My week was good, Dr. O. Thanks for asking. Work went really well. It was tough to stay focused during the week because of Saturday, what was coming up, but we powered through and had a great time with my boys at tailgate and the parade. But we're doing good. It was a great week.
I love it. Well, I was also very excited about this week. As many people know, I'm a pretty diehard USD Coyote fan, and I may have had perhaps the best Dakota days I've ever had in my entire life. It was so epic. It was from start to finish. I woke up at 6 o'clock in the morning to bring down our Oyen tailgate. And we brought down our beautiful homemade tailgate trailer, and we got it parked. And then we situated ourselves down at the parade. I was honored to be one of the judges. And so I got to sit with one of the student government leaders as we watched all the floats go by. I don't know, did anybody else go to the parade? Mark or Chad or Jordan? Oh,
We did.
Jordan. Okay. Did you have any favorite floats?
The boys really like the fire trucks, if that counts. But the Newman Center had a fun one. I don't know the name of the organization. I think it was one of the sororities. Was fun. It was the ones that were interacting with the kids. They were really good.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I thought the Newman Center one was pretty good. They were really energetic, and we left about 10 o'clock because we did want to get over to tailgate the parade, and they had a grocery bag full of candy. I was like, I think we're good.
Oh yeah. Well, as a judge, I feel that people were trying to influence my vote. And so we had like a mound of candy, and I was getting koozies and umbrellas, and look at this. The wrecking ball.
Mitch is right. That was the one I was thinking of. It had the Panther on the top. I can't remember who had the wrecking ball with the Panther.
Oh yeah, it was the Mart brothers. The Mart brothers were bringing it. I did think that was really creative.
Great
I
float.
think the Panther was very cute. But I also did like that they were trying to destroy it and brought their, the Mart brothers, the construction. I thought that was nice bringing that in. I think the one you're thinking about is the Theta gals. They were bringing the roaring coyotes. I thought that was pretty fun. I also loved the coffee cup had like back to the 80s. So they were like rocking and rolling. They had the Center for Children and Families. They had like a Wild West theme. They all had like inflatable horses, and they were cowboys. And then they had the Vermilion Cultural Association. They had this huge movie theater where it looked like the movie theater, and on the other side it looked like they were painting, and that was very, very cool. What was some of the other ones? I think the other ones that I really liked was I think there was some other ones that were like the Coyote Crazies. They were always so funny and hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
And then Nick Oyen really wanted me to vote for the Rotary float because, they're doing a lot of good about the old Rotary float. So anyway, I loved that. We had a lot of fun during the parade. And then, of course, epic time at the tailgate. Again, one of the best tailgate I think I've ever seen. Well, for myself, because I was in the middle of tailgate, enjoying my time. It was a faculty staff tailgate, one of 5 locations. And we welcomed faculty and staff in. Everyone's having a glorious time. We had new faculty and staff that have never been to tailgate. We're welcoming them to Coyote Nation. And I look away and I look forward, and all of a sudden they come to me and they present us with Tailgaters of the Game on Dakota Days. And I feel that I peaked. Yes. I think I hugged the lady 5 times.
Mark, of course, giving the jealous face down in the corner here. But how many times have you won that award, Mark?
Indiana State. That's our weekend. We'll get it.
You've been nominated though?
No.
Rotary Flow was awesome. Oh, Nick win. Okay, so again, so already I'm on cloud 9. Actually, some of my friends thought I was maybe on cloud 10, 11, 12. It could have been any of those numbers. Then as soon as I get done, all of a sudden I turn over and this man from Dakota News Now is like, and we'd also like to interview you for Dakota News Now about what it means to be a coyote. And I said, I would always like to be interviewed about what it means to be a coyote. And so then we got interviewed. It was epic. And I'm still recovering from it. It was a beautiful day.
You did a great job. It was awesome.
You did. Yeah, that piece DNN did, that was great. That was a fun piece, and it looked like a blast on the east side.
Well, we did have a lot of fun. And then the band plays right by our tailgate. And anyway, we had a great time. Overall, just a few thoughts from the psychologist. Again, who knows? I think it's really, again, very important to know. I don't know anything about the plays, but I do think that we have a lot of people that are believing in themselves. I also think we have a lot of football players that are believing in themselves. A few things I think that were just so fun to watch. I would like to give a little shout out because I think that the universe has been listening to our dear friend Jordan, and his wishes are coming true because JJ gets the ball and he makes this epic play. And not only is he this wonderful football player, but I think we need to see if Lucky Huber needs a hurdler because he also hurdled over someone to just make that touchdown. What do you think?
Yes. I was wondering if he was going to run that dude over or try to juke him, and then he just decided, I will go over the top of that guy.
I'll just jump over it.
That'll the plays of the year.
Yes, for sure.
I did think, I was like, you know what, this is for Jordan. And now because you're teaching me, do you see how I'm learning from you a little bit about football? I knew this was important, and then it's important to you. And now it's being manifested.
I tried to tell. No, I'm just kidding. It was it was a great. I thought top to bottom it was great. The offense was fantastic. The play calling was fantastic. Like,
oh yes,
yeah. When JJ hurdled the guy, it was on the opposite side from where we were sitting. But my goodness, that got the student section fired up. It was loud.
That was pretty incredible. And then when Carter Bell does that lateral pass back. And then we run that forward. I mean, that was insane. I thought that was so exciting. What were some other plays I really liked? I really liked it when we did that big interception to stop you and I at right before the second half. Yep. I know, so exciting. Okay, so those were my 3 things, and then one last shout out about the game, and then I actually do want to talk about some psychology. But I'm calling it, you like to talk about things that are the eye chart. I've decided to give myself a category. I'd like to call it the Golden Yote. And the Golden Yote for this week, for me, goes to the Sound of USD that is accompanied by this Beverly Hills thrift store. The halftime show was like a 15 out of 10. I mean, who has a rock band that then the Sound of USD comes on with them and plays all these like rockin' and rolling songs, including Waterfalls, and then they're playing Superstition. And anyway, incredible. I loved it so much. So I think we came to play, as Bob Nielsen would say, on all phases of the game, including the Sound of USD.
100%. It was awesome.
It was so good.
Absolutely. As an alumni of the Sound, it was great to see them back sounding the way it's meant to be sound. I know they've been working really hard to get numbers back up, and they're large. They sounded great. It was like a funk. It was like a funk halftime, and like if you listen to funk, they had this band, this 4-piece band, right, with the trap set, And then the band, 120, 130 folks, whatever it is, they played like the backup, and it was so loud. It was great. Like even our boys were dancing, and I'm probably gonna have to buy some more vinyl funk records for them, to listen to. But play the funky music, white boy, that was going. Even people around us were all dancing. You and I folks were getting into it. So not to beat the same drum, no pun intended, Dr. O, but you're right. The sound the parade, they sounded amazing. It's just good to see.
That was good to see. So, okay. So just a small little nod, and then I'll make sure you guys can talk about more sportsy things, but it's got me thinking all about this phenomenon that we have in psychology that is called imposter syndrome. And so I was wondering of you guys that are on this podcast here with me, I'm wondering how many of you have ever felt like an imposter? And it's, I'll read you the definition. First, I'm going to tell you a little bit about where it's from, and then you can tell me if you've ever felt like an imposter. Two American psychologists, Pauline Clance and Suzanne Imes, gave it the name in 1978. They described it as feeling like phoniness in people who believe that they are not intelligent, capable, or creative despite evidence of high achievement. And while these people are very highly motivated to achieve, they also live in fear of being found out or exposed as frauds. Oftentimes we see this with athletes. We see it with people who really are very, very high achieving. They just feel like they're imposters. And so sometimes that can get in the way of our success. And so I'm wondering, before I kind of talk a little bit about what that might look like on the court or in our lives, has anybody here ever felt like a bit of a fake or a bit of an imposter?
I always get that feeling on Veterans Day. So I served 16 years in the Navy. I was Homer Simpson in the Navy. I was behind a nuclear reactor control panel. But when people say like, veterans, please stand up and be recognized, I do not feel like standing up. Yeah. Like I wasn't getting shot at. I wasn't dodging landmines or in these Humvees that got, I was in the middle of the ocean, fairly safe.
Right.
And so, yeah, I always feel like if I stand up, somebody's going to be like, well, you weren't in the real military. So, yeah, for sure. I felt that.
Sure. Super common, right? Like there's somehow a different level. Like we're right. Actually, right. That I haven't met the certain level in order to stand. Yeah. Pretty common. Anybody else? You, Chad, you, Jordan?
Well, I don't know if there's anything I want to share on the show, but
come on, this is on the couch. We're on the couch.
On the couch.
This is on the couch, Chad. This is just you and me.
Yeah. And anyone else who's going to watch this on YouTube.
And anybody else that's going to watch this, you know what happens when you share these things? People think it's okay.
Well, I will say I worked for a consulting company probably about 7-8 years ago here, and I worked on some big projects out at like T-Mobile headquarters and Microsoft out in the Seattle area. And I felt like anytime I went to meetings there, they were just talking so fast and so quick. And I was like, I know what was going on, but I just kind of felt like it was a different world than, little old Sioux Falls or Southeast South Dakota is.
Yeah.
And it took me a little while to kind of get used to what was going on there. And so I felt like an imposter in that particular environment. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Super common, right? Especially when people are using a lot of language or like a lot of acronyms. That's when I always think that it sneaks up. Like, what were these acronyms? Why don't I know them already? And I'm writing them down as fast as I could so I can try to Google them later. So when I come back tomorrow, I can know what they are.
Right.
Yeah.
I am a huge fan of anytime people use acronyms that I don't know, I kind of flip it back on them and I say, I don't know what that means. And I try to, say, hey, I'm not as smart as you if that's the world that you're in. But yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Duly noted. The next time I'm in a meeting with you, Chad, or anytime you use acronyms, I will.
Do it. Absolutely.
All right. How about you, Jordan?
I'm trying to think.
How about the meeting when another Jordan was referenced several times last week, and you were sitting in the meeting, and that Jordan wasn't? Did you feel like an imposter at that point?
No, I think mine would be more. like self-doubt
Mm-hmm.
versus having humility too. Like if something good happens, it's kind of like even though I did play a part in it, like I don't think that I did. So when it's like all this praise or all this good news happening, it's like I didn't do that, but I
Mm-hmm.
did. But I feel like I shouldn't, because that's when the self-doubt kind of kicks in. Like you didn't do that. I don't know. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, like you're doing like an excellent job building the University of Sioux Falls. Perhaps we're very proud of that. Maybe you have some credit
Yeah.
for
In that
that.
regard, like
Perhaps
when we
we're
have a
very happy
yeah,
about that. Maybe you should own some credit in that space.
yeah, and
But
like
that can be
even
hard.
the books I read, they say it's very important to do that from time to time, right? But it's still like I don't know. It's just part of me where it's like no, we have a great team, and I there's no way
Yeah,
I played a part in that. Like it's
yeah, yeah.
everyone else.
Well, and both of those things can be true, right? And I think the reason I'm having you say that, and the reason I mean, again, I feel this all the time. Before I became a professor, I was a school psychologist in a public school in Lenox, South Dakota. And I remember as I was starting as a professor, being in higher education is a whole different world. They start calling you doctor all the time, and you're kind of looked upon as being an expert that has it all figured out. And one of my things that just happened this past week or a past year, it is actually the first time it happened in 8 years. I actually had an instance where I started to go through a lecture, and I was lecturing and lecturing and lecturing, and we kind of got to the break, and I realized after lecturing for about an hour, um, I had actually lectured on the wrong week. Like I started and I was lecturing the wrong week's lesson. I actually was lecturing the next week's lesson. Nobody had told me, but it made me feel right. Like all of a sudden you have this turning, and you're like, oh no, right, imposter. And I think that when those kinds of things happen, I think it's just a good lesson for us to realize that those messages, right, the things we're telling ourselves, sometimes they're really really good for us. Sometimes they can be less good for us. And the reason I'm bringing it up on this show, and the reason I'm wanting us to think about this, is that I think sometimes, especially when we think about Division I athletes, when we think about people that are performing at this really high level, even our Division I musicians, we kind of think sometimes that maybe they have a kind of a glamorous maybe life, that they're given a lot of praise, a lot of benefits. But I think sometimes people don't realize the grind, and I think we do. I think we see maybe some of the underside of it. I know I do, because I see a lot of students that are sitting in the library, day in and day out. But a lot of times it can be quite a grind to be able to try to live up to these high expectations, not only on the field, but also in the classroom. You're getting a lot of feedback. You get a lot of feedback from your professors. You get a lot of feedback from your coaches. And the other crowd that you get a lot of feedback from is also the fans. And then the other thing is that because you have so many of those task demands all the time, you actually don't have a lot of time to be able to do what's really good for your brain, which is recover and get rest and kind of remember, like, you know what? I'm filled with all sorts of good things and maybe not so good things, but I am trying my best here, right? And so I wanted to talk a little bit about that today, because I think it's important for us to know. The other thing, I wanted to give you a few facts. Over 70% of people will experience imposter phenomenon at least one time in their life. It happens to both men and women. It's not limited to your personality type. So it doesn't matter if you're a type A person, type B, it doesn't matter. It'll come for you. It doesn't matter what career you're in. It actually doesn't matter how successful you are. It definitely will come for you. And here is what's interesting. The common factor about imposters phenomenon is that it's a failure to accept one's own success or competency. I'm going to say it one more time because it's kind of a powerful one. It's a failure to accept one's own success or competency. And it's tough, right? right? We're filled with lots of really great things. We're successful, and sometimes we fail to remember that. I'm going to take it one more level, and this is for anybody that's listening and is going to hear this. I actually think that sometimes USD Coyote fans, I think we have a little bit of imposter syndrome. Sometimes I think that we're not giving ourselves enough credit. Because I think, I'm just thinking about this past week, right? So there was, we had Dakota days, same time as Hobo days. And there was kind of this like push to let's compare them. Which one is bigger? Which one is going to be the best one, right? I actually was interviewed by a few different entities. I was interviewed by 2 different news broadcasts. They both asked me that same question about kind of what do you think the impact is going to be, because there is both Hobo Days and Dakota Days. And I answered the question the same way to both entities. And I said, this is a great weekend to be from South Dakota. But it had me thinking so much about, I've heard so many people say different things about being a Coyote fan. And I think sometimes we kind of like don't own the space we're in. And I will say that I know there were a lot of people up north, but I also know there was a lot of people down south this weekend. And so I think that that's really interesting for me. And I guess perhaps we are not perfect, but I think that maybe Coyote fans need to own the success and competencies that we have. And that perhaps might be the next step for us to take it up to the next level and help our student athletes to know that they also are not imposters. I don't know. That was my take this week. I don't know, too much probably, but there it is.
Perfect.
We had a comment here on YouTube. I don't know who this guy is, but
who is this guy?
Yeah, we need to get Mark the veteran of the game one of these weeks.
I know.
I feel like
I think you're right, Dr. O, though. Like a lot of folks have talked about this in the past, and I've mentioned this with Mark too, is I have this picture where it's like losers focus on winners, winners focus on winning. And, initially when the D1 transition, there was always that comparative to the school to the north, right? And rightfully so. But I think it's now at the point where you look across the board in all of our athletics, and it's like you shouldn't be doing, as a fan, the athletes don't do it.
No.
Right. But, in certain sports, it's to be the best, you got to beat the best, right? But in pretty much all the sports, we've done that. And us fans, there's a good chunk of Coyote fans that just want that. It's constantly, they might be even at the USD game and they're checking the SDSU score to make sure they're getting their butts handed to. It's like, you don't need to be doing. You can check the Missouri Valley scores, but like, why do you care? There was a guy in front of me like constantly checking the SDSU score, and I'm like, why do you? It's D-Days. It's part of a larger thing where it's like we just got to focus on us. Like, I'm not saying what state's doing and the success that they've had at numerous sports isn't driving USD, right? But it's like we're at a stage now where we're super successful in most, if not all, the sports, right? And so you got to focus on what USD is doing. And I think the more we can hammer that, the better. Like, these fans just need to understand, like, they graduate 1,500 to 1,800 more students. They're going to have a bigger fan base. We need to embrace what we have. I'm going to get off that soapbox.
No, it's okay. But I also think the other thing to pay attention to is, again, I was sitting as the judge in this parade. And the other thing that was so fun for me to watch is that I'm watching all these people who love being, nurses. They're in the parade. They are loving being physician's assistants. They are loving, they're loving being together. These alums coming back. They love being lawyers. They love, at my tailgate, guess who was coming back? School psychologists, educators. Educators were coming back, teachers. And I just can't help but think that, again, I'm sure they're also doing that at SDSU. Like, what a beautiful thing. Actually, bigger than anything, we had a lot of problem when we do have a problem with what we call brain drain, which means that really, really smart people are leaving our state. And instead, I want our young people to stay here and be homegrown and make investments in our community and make our community a better place. And when people come back and they celebrate what that means and how they're serving our state, like it's really cool to see. And to your point about like when we actually examine what we're doing here and stop looking elsewhere, what we're actually doing here is so cool. Like the band is really cool. The football team is really cool. The volleyball team, I didn't even get a chance to talk about that Thursday night. Like they're doing really good things. I know they're young, but I do think they will be dominant. And I think when we visualize more of that, we spend less time worrying about other people. I actually think that's when you win.
Agree.
The party is where we're at, folks. It's not going on anywhere else. Right?
Oh, yes. You know what? And I think here's the next thing. Okay. So we need to acknowledge, examine, and visualize. How do we get Mark Wendt to be tailgater of the game? First, we want to acknowledge. We want to acknowledge both positive feedback that he's received and maybe doubts towards its authenticity. I don't know. Let's get positive and negative feedback about the tailgate. I don't know. I've not been there, but let's just take a look at that. We're going to examine the messages we're getting about the tailgate, understanding the sources of the feedback, and then we need to visualize, Mark, that you can do this. We're going to take it to the next level. I think we're going to get you a theme. Now, I did have a theme at my tailgate. We ate pan pizza for the Panthers. We're going to figure out a game.
Okay, so the next one game is
Mark Wendt, a group, and I think we can get you tailgater of the game.
I think I might need help.
You know what? The first step is acknowledging that you need help. Actually, we're going to need to get, Jordan's off the couch. Mark's on the couch. Anyway.
Mitch is 100% right. I figured out how to get a lot of stuff into a little car.
Mitch chimed in and said that he should win it for the simple fact he fits everything and everyone in his car.
Well, there is that. So anyway, well, I think that we're going to be great. I think next week we go to Youngstown. I don't even know where that is.
Ice Castle.
Is that in Ohio?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that sounds
great history there.
All right, very, very positive. And then the volley. Oh, well, you guys are going to talk about this next.
We'll get that. But yeah, so that has been this week on the couch with Dr. O. We're going to work on incorporating some theme music for you here next week.
Oh, that's what I need. Like a little, yeah. Thank you very much. That would be very good.
Yeah, but thank you so
Probably
much.
Probably like Girl from Impanina or something.
Oh my gosh. All right, guys. Well, you guys are lights in the world, so keep shining.
Thanks.
All right. Bye.
Yeah, Dr. O.
Thanks, Dr. O.
Bye, Dr. O. All righty. Well, let's go ahead.
Great.
Yes. I learned something every single time. This is the best part. I mean, we're not only just sharing our love for USD Athletics, but we're learning along the way. So excellent on how that works. So coming up this week in USD Athletics, soccer is going to be on the road up in North Dakota, Grand Forks at UND on the 17th at 3:00, and then the 20th at NDSU for a 1:00 game. Football, as Dr. O just mentioned, is going to be at Youngstown State. 5 p.m. kickoff, a little bit later kickoff on that one. And then volleyball is going to be at home this week, Thursday versus Kansas City, 7 p.m. And then on Saturday, 2 p.m. versus NDSU. So before we talk a little bit about those, let's recap a little bit with the Northern Iowa game. Jordan, you were there. Mark, you were there. USD pretty dominant, but it didn't necessarily start out that way at the beginning of the game. Mark, you want to talk a little bit about the start of the game?
Yeah, so I was at the tailgate. I was telling everyone I could think of. Like I think I've been conditioned over the years for disappointment. Like, so when I saw the initial point spread, which was really high, I think it ended up at 21, 22, something like that to us. It scared me. Like, and I still had obviously the 58-14 debacle of a few years ago in my mind. So when Northern Iowa went down and scored right away, pretty, a couple big plays on that opening drive and punched it in. And I thought, well, here we go again. This is our letdown week. This is what happens to the Coyotes. But they answered that drive with a touchdown of their own, and really from that point on, it was what we've seen in weeks prior to this, and is just complete dominance in all three phases of the game once again. Pretty impressive. And like I say, I'm not used to that. I'm still adjusting to us being really good and really dominant. And like I say, I think since I've been here, I moved back here in 2005. I think I've been conditioned for disappointment, and I'm not getting that, and I hope I don't get it. But yeah, really refreshing to see. It was a complete performance by the Yotes in all three phases.
Are you feeling a little bit of imposter syndrome here, Mark?
Correct.
Okay. All right. So as you mentioned, first quarter, couple scores back and forth there. UNI went up right away, 7-0. And then JJ Galbraith, friend of the show, caught a 27-yard touchdown pass from Aiden Bauman. And so USD tied it up. But then right away in the second quarter there, Caden Palmer for UNI kicked a 22-yard field goal. So UNI's up 10-7 second quarter. And then USD kind of turned it on, scoring not one, not two, not three, but 4 consecutive touchdowns on the scoreboard there in the second and third quarter to go up to a 35-10 lead with about, not even halfway through the third quarter. And then UNI was able to get a 50-yard touchdown pass on the scoreboard to close the gap to 35-17, but then Charles Pierre Jr. 20-yard touchdown run kind of sealed it off near the end of the third quarter for the 42-17 final score. Jordan, what were your thoughts from the game on Saturday?
Yeah, first and foremost, I thought the depth really showed for USD, and one thing that we haven't seen before is this type of depth. Like, we've got talent coming off of the sidelines at all positions that when they're needed, they can perform still at the highest level. And we saw that both offense and defense. I mean, the first 6 drives of the game were touchdowns by USD. The first punt didn't come till I think 10, 11 minutes left to go in the fourth quarter, which this is one of those games, right? Like, you're watching the fourth quarter, it was backups, and it'd be great if we could score, but they were running. And actually I left with about 8.5 minutes to go. It was just that time with the boys. They were witching hour, as we call it. But I thought the depth really showed. Super impressed with the offense and defense again. I mean, the offense, UNI's got a great run defense. They're always really physical in years past, right? But this year, UNI has a great run defense, and that kind of showed early on. But Josh Davis was able to call a great game in the passing game. I mean, like, JJ, those catches in the middle of the field, right? JJ, it was there all the time. It was there, and they saw it. They called it. JJ had that leaping touchdown that really got everyone fired up at the beginning of the game. But it was just an all-around dominant performance again. And USD over 500 yards. Let me pull it up here. Rushing still ended with 192 yards on the ground, passing 321. So to Mark's point, this is, to me, I'll say it, this is the best offensive team I've seen in my time being a Coyote fan. Defense is definitely up there, but we'll see, right? Like, some of the criticism USD is getting is the strength of schedule right now. One part I don't like about that argument when they say the non-scholarship school, it turns out Drake's actually doing pretty good at football this year. It's actually a pretty solid football team. And Wisconsin's turning out to be a pretty good team at the FBS level. But
as someone who follows the Northern Sun, Northern actually knocked off Duluth this past week. So FYI, yeah, going back to that opening game, Northern's kind of flipped the switch here too. So just, it's looking a little bit more strengthy as far as the strength of schedule goes.
Well, and here's the thing, and people are going to make excuses that aren't fans of USD, right? Like, don't follow USD. They're going to be, well, look at who they play. It's like they've still put up over 40 points and been dominant. Like if these were 2-score games, I'd be like, okay, like NDSU only, they beat Southern Illinois on the road 24-3. That with a third string quarterback, that one's kind of like what really happened in that game. But yeah, sorry not to be whatever, but I thought, slow start, but second, third quarter, just completely dominant on all sides of the football. Great showing, and ran into some nice UNI fans. That was nice. They brought a decent amount of folks to the game, but they had a couple of guys I spoke to. I think they were parents of number 29. They were standing they did not sit the whole game. They were standing in kind of the entryway, and one of my boys was kind of getting in their way a little bit. And I was like, get over here, right? And they're like, oh, I miss those days. And they were like, we really love what the dome is completely different. Even when we would come here in the early 2010s for games, we'd drive up, and they had compliments about everything, the game day atmosphere, the west side of the dome and how that looks now. So yeah, really impressed. I'm really looking forward to a trap game. It always seems like when you go out to Youngstown. So if we can get another 30-point win, that would be amazing.
Well, attendance for the game on Saturday was listed at 8934. Relatively short game, 2 hours 49 minutes, but it was a lot of running in the second half, and so things kind of went the way they did as far as that goes. Pull up a couple of stats here on the screen. We can see Aiden Bauman finished 17 for 20 for 284 yards and 2 touchdowns passing. AJ Coons had 2 receptions for 61 yards and a touchdown. JJ, as we mentioned, had the 3 catches for 61 yards and a touchdown. Carter Bell, 4 catches for 54 yards. Travis Tice had 2 total touchdowns, 1 receiving reception for 49 yards, and then he also had 6 carries for 38 yards. Charles Pierre Jr. had 21 carries for 105 yards. And I don't know how your math is, but that's 5 yards per carry and 2 touchdowns. LJ Phillips Jr. also had 3 carries for 42 yards. Defensively, I was looking at these numbers, and these are just spectacular numbers. Nate Ewell, 11 total tackles, 1 tackle for loss, 1 sack, 1 pass broken up. And Gary Bryant, the third, 11 tackles, 1 tackle for loss, and an interception. I mean, Mark, how dominant was that defense on Saturday?
Yeah, you mentioned the linebackers there, and I think that was a question coming into the year. Like, how are we going to replace the linebackers that we lost? Mogi being among them, and Gary Bryant and what's his name? Nate? Is his first name Nate?
Yep.
Nate. They're fantastic football players. Like, they are constantly around the ball. They make every play. Gary Bryant, his interception there, as you and I was trying to make it a game there at the end of the half, stepped in front of the wide receiver and picked the pass off, was a huge play in the game, really, and effectively kind of put the nail in the coffin for you and I. They're really fun to watch. Like, if there was any question, if that was going to be a weak spot in the defense because of what we lost, I think those 2 fellas and everyone else who's playing at that position have answered that bell and answered that question decisively.
Anything else that you want to add, Jordan or Mark, about the game on Saturday?
Injuries. We had a few. I haven't heard. I think Tice, a bruised leg. Mark, I can't quite remember, but Aiden just got the wind knocked out of him. Listen to the post-game press conference on the way back. He answered it like a guy. He just, like a football guy. He just said, "Yep, just tough football play. I'll be okay." But later, come to find out, it was just the wind knocked out of him. So Aiden will be good to go. I'm not sure about the other 2 though. Haven't heard much about Travis either.
Well, then let's not even bring it up.
We will not bring it up. No.
Mitch chimed in and said Coach Hodge is the real deal. Coach Hodge, linebacker coach.
Backs.
Yeah. So, so big win for the Yotes on Saturday, and looking forward to the matchup at Youngstown this coming week. Excited to see, where the Yotes go from here, and I know I'll be tuned in and paying attention to the outcome of that game. Next, let's move on to volleyball. Volleyball, as we mentioned, played North Dakota on Thursday night. They did win 3-2, moving them to 11-5 overall and 3-2 in the Summit League. The 3-2 win dropped the first set 25-21, but then came back and won the second one 25-15 in pretty dominant fashion. Dropped the third one 25-21 again before winning the fourth and fifth sets 25-20 and 15-10. The listed attendance at North Dakota was 652, but we were watching online. Didn't maybe seem that high. I don't know if the camera angles were, not great for catching the fans, but did hear a few of them heckling number 9, Elena Wolf, as she was serving in the first set. But after that, they were pretty quiet, not really into it. Mark, I know you missed the first couple. You were having some family stuff there, but we did go live on sets 3, 4, and 5 and had a good time there on X. But what was the overall reaction to what happened on Thursday?
Yeah, the thing that jumped out to me when we hopped on was Kylan Seelock was swinging really well. I don't know what she ended up with as far as kills, but she was swinging really, really well. And we still had these stretches where we can't seem to get out of our own way a little bit, and we jump out to a 5 or 4 point lead, and we just seem to give those away a little more than I would like to see. And it's not necessarily anything the other team is doing. It seems like we're putting it in the net ourselves or hitting them long or out. So still some work to do there, in my opinion. But overall, a win is a win. So,
yeah. You mentioned kind of making a lot of mistakes and being our own worst enemy there. Set 1, losing that one 25-21. Yotes had 7 attack errors on that one, and their attack percentage there was only 0.057. Very, very low for that one. And then set 3, once again, 8 errors in that one, and percentage was 0.067. So you can see those mistakes are really coming back to haunt them in the sets that they drop. Whereas in the ones that they win, set 2 hit 0.222, only had 4 errors. Set 5, only 2 errors. That one hit 0.32. I mean, when the sets when the Yotes aren't making those mistakes, those errors along the way, they're able to kind of keep things together, but kind of their own worst enemy in a couple of those particular sets.
100%.
I did look up Kylan Seelock while you were talking. 21 kills on the match on Thursday nights. Led the team. Amanda Lotion and Cheyenne Halady also had near double-digit kills, but Seelock led the team by pretty far there. Blocks-wise, Morgan Bodie led the team with 9. Amanda Lotion 7, and Cheyenne Halady had 5. And then obviously, Avery Van Hook's going to lead the team in assists every single time that she's out there because she's a setter. And so that's what setters do. But a couple service aces. Elena Wolf had 2, Cameron Ferris had 2, and Morgan Bodie had 1 on the match. And then as far as back row goes, Cameron Ferris had 21 digs. That's what a libero should do. But Elena Wolf had 17. Pretty big game for her in the back row there. And then Lauren Medic, 14 for her as well. So some players really stepped up in the match on Thursday night, and the Yotes were able to pull out the big win.
Yeah, probably should shout out Amanda Lotion. I think that was her first start of the year. She played well.
Yeah, she did play really well. Had the 8 kills on the night, and then as I mentioned earlier, she had the 5 blocks. So big match for her. Did really well. Number 13, Cora Hokenstad's also getting a lot of play in the back row. Freshman out of Sioux Falls, and so she's doing really well. She actually had double-digit dig numbers, 12 on Thursday night as well. So getting a lot of people involved, and it's good to see how the team's coming together, and was able to rebound after that kind of rough week the week before that.
Yeah. Still a lot of young people in the starting lineup there, so plenty of time to get it together here when crunch time comes. So.
Well, as I mentioned earlier, we are going to go live on Twitter or X Spaces to discuss the game and all things USD volleyball. I will not call on you if you're a USD coach. I apologize if I offended anyone this past week. But if you want to join in and listen to us talk about the game, or if you want to join and talk about it yourself, just let us know. You can request to speak in those X Spaces. It's kind of a community, conference call where we just talk about what's happening during the game. But we're not going to do it this week. Because why? Because the Yotes are going to be at home. And so for all the home games, home matches, we will not try to keep people at home. We want people to go to the matches, get out there and help us lead the Summit League in attendance this year.
Absolutely.
That's the goal. Speaking of Summit League, the Summit League standings have been updated after this past weekend, and South Dakota State's still in first place at 5-0. Omaha's 4-1, so they dropped to second. But USD moves up to third place with that 3-2 after the big win, tied with NDSU at 3-2. St. Thomas is 3-3, right in the middle at fifth place. Denver's 2-3. Oral Roberts 2-4. Kansas City, surprisingly, at 1-4. I wasn't expecting that before the season, but they're down there. That's it's where they're at right now. And then UND is at 1-5. Any comments on the standings here, folks?
Someone needs to beat State.
Well, it's still early in the season. It's still early, so a lot of volleyball yet to be played. All right. Well, the other thing that happened this week was the Summit League Basketball Media Day happened on Tuesday and in Sioux Falls, and the coaches and the media were able to get together, and some of the players, and have some fun in Sioux Falls. But they did release the preseason rankings for both men's and women's basketball. And so we're going to go ahead and put those on the screen if you're watching. The men's preseason rankings for the Summit League have Kansas City rated number 1, South Dakota State number 2, North Dakota State number 3, St. Thomas 4, Oral Roberts in 5th, North Dakota in 6th, and USD is down in 7th, picked 7th in the preseason rankings. Omaha and Denver round out the Summit League. Anything that catches you guys' eyes there, Jordan?
Let them sleep. I mean, I get it. Why some of the media voted USD so low, I guess, but they don't know the talent that's coming in. I think they just see a bunch of transfers and they don't do their research and see who actually is coming in. This team's going to surprise a lot of people. They're going to be fun to watch. I think they're going to break the single season USD dunking record as far as the amount of dunks that are going to be during the year. They're explosive. They can shoot. Let them sleep. The women.
We haven't covered the women.
Just the men. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, the men though. I get it, but I just think a lot of them didn't do their research on the transfers that USD got.
Well, so Mark and I had a little bit of a discussion previously. Are these rankings based on how teams finished last year versus what they have returning, or are the teams really looking at the rosters of the squads this year and taking that into account? So, Mark, I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, we discussed that prior to hitting record here, but I myself, if I was doing preseason rankings, I think it would be a balance of where I think they're going to finish and what happened last year. So on the men's side, I was a little surprised to see South Dakota State in second. Like, in my mind, until somebody beats them, as much as that hurts me to say, South Dakota State's won until proven otherwise. As far as the Yotes at 7, I have them higher. There's a lot of talk about the transfers, but we do have a lot of guys coming back with a lot of experience. The Bruns brothers, obviously Caleb Stewart's back, Mayim Boom's back. There's a core of guys with a ton of experience coming back, and then you add in those transfers, and I would be absolutely shocked if we finish 7th or lower.
Max Burchell back.
Max back.
Max back.
Fan of the show.
Yep. Friend of the show. Yep.
Yep. I'll take the Yotes higher than 7 all
And
day.
Mark, I think from what I was reading, a state got the benefit of being, defending champ by being that high, because I think they lost like 80% of their minutes in scoring from last year.
They definitely did, but
I'm fine with Kansas City being one, but I don't understand the Oral Roberts UND ahead of USD, but we'll see.
Well, and I always say preseason rankings are worth the paper they're written on, and in this case, there's no paper there anyways. So
I'm not critiquing like the media, because like to be fair, if I had a vote, this would be really hard too, because of all like the NIL stuff and transfers that come in. It's so hard to keep track of everyone that comes in. So you're right. I'm just getting at to Mark's point, I have them higher.
All right. Well, on the women's side, South Dakota State was the number 1, the favorite in the preseason rankings. Oral Roberts second, North Dakota State third. USD came in 4th in the preseason rankings on the women's side. St. Thomas 5th, Denver 6th, UND 7th, Kansas City 8th, and Omaha 9th. Reaction to this one, Mark?
I think that's probably fair for USD, even though I have them higher. I think we finished 4th the last 2 years. But I'm a big fan of what Coach Amy has brought in, what we have coming back. Like give me the Yotes on every Thursday and Saturday we're playing here coming up in 3 weeks we kick this thing off. So I think it's a fair ranking for the Yotes, but we're going to finish higher than that.
Jordan?
Yeah, I think that's right where they should be for the preseason poll. No other way around it. State is going to be pretty good this year with the Meyer gals up on their roster. But Chad, can you pull up that list again for second and third? I think it was NDSU.
Oral Roberts.
Yeah, they returned. They've got really talented rosters. If anything, I would switch NDSU and Oral Roberts, but I think the top 4 are the top 4, and then it's a crapshoot for the rest of the league. But we've got the talents. It's all about execution, though, right? So, yeah, I think they're fine at 4, but let's go prove some folks wrong this year.
All right. Well, I'm excited to see what will happen in Summit League hoops this year. I bet you if we pull those preseason rankings up at the end of the season, probably going to be some changes on what happens there on how teams finish. But we'll wait and let it play out. All right. And now.
And that's just what they wanted to do there. And all things considered, again, as you see the eye chart cardboard cutout, how appropriate.
Through the review, the eye chart made its way to the video board. It really injected some energy.
For those of you that aren't aware, Mark Wendt, our co-host here, is famous for holding up an eye chart at games when refs make questionable calls. So now what we are going to do is we are going to try to list some of our questionable calls from the past week, whether it's from games, life, or whatever. Mark, go ahead and give us the results of the eye chart of the week from last week.
Yeah, so we had our last week we had our first fan submission to the eye chart of the week, and wouldn't you know it, they won the poll. The Howling Pack, for their new Core Trust entry rules, won the poll with 40% of the vote. Chad's nominee, Ryan from Twitter, was second with 26.7% of the vote.
Suck it, Ryan.
Wielding a weapon call, 20% of the vote. And Mark's nominee, Coach Thomas, for dodging the Gatorade bath, was last place with 13.3% of the vote.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and give our eye chart of the week for this week. And we did have another fan submission this week. Mark, do you have that pulled up?
I do.
Go ahead and read that one.
Fan submission, apparently wherever this fan was sitting next to some people who were fans of USD, but were shouting some discouraging things to our own team and own players, calling them out by name and number and telling them they were less than stellar. So maybe something, you could filter a little bit if you're a fan. So the fan submission for iChart of the week is people who put down our own team, I would say.
All right. Jordan, why don't you go next?
So mine occurred this afternoon at a local area pumpkin patch where there is a hay bale maze and kids run around on top of it. Kids run around in between it. A lot of people taking pictures, recording videos for the gram, for likes. And my iChart of the Week nominee goes to a mother who I assumed was recording her child running on top of the hay bales, and the kid fell off and was crying, very, pretty sure it was a leg injury, crying hysterically. And the mom kept recording, and with her other hand was and her face was saying, "Stop, stop, stop," as if to keep recording for some reason, instead of caring for the child. So my iChart of the Week goes to Instagram mom.
All right. Instagram mom, fans that are not supportive. And my iChart of the Week is going to go to people who drink and drive. Dakota Days, very, very fun time of year. And one of my highlights for D-Days is following the Vermilion Police Department on Twitter or X. And this year they did a decent job of posting some of those. But unfortunately, many of the posts they made were due to people drinking and driving. It's 2024, people. Get a rideshare service. Find a friend to serve as a designated driver, but do not drink and drive. We have to move beyond that in society. So people that drink and drive, my iChart of the Week.
I can tell you guys I'm going to vote for Chad's. That's just very obvious.
Well, I'm once again going to lose the vote. I know that, and because I'm going to irritate people, and I've tweeted about this already, and I've irritated a number of people. So, but I'm still going to say it, and I'm still going to stick to it. My iChart of the Week goes to the people who leave the game, football games, I'm talking, at halftime, and forget to come back.
Preach.
We're one of the only few venues that does that. I can't think of another venue I've been to where you can leave at halftime and come back in without anybody checking your ticket. That doesn't happen. And I would be 100% in favor of putting a stop to that. And I know that'll irritate a lot of people, especially the East Siders that think they can duck out and get a quick beer or two in them. But the attendance drops so significantly at halftime, and I'm tired of looking at it. And I'm 100% in favor of putting an end to that nonsense. And if you want to drink a beer, they're available in the dome. You just have to pony up a little bit. But my iChart of the Week is the people that leave at halftime who prefer beer over our football team.
And you guys talked about the band performance at halftime on Saturday as well. So
it's a great show. I should say Marcus Destin, shout out Marcus. He does a fabulous job, running that whole thing during timeouts and whatnot. That guy is A+, and he's been A+ since he stepped foot on campus. So an all-time dude.
Stigmas that we've had in the past of, it's, you get sleepy, blah, blah, blah during the game. It's that's gone. This year, and I know they're going to keep it with, it's the timeouts. Marcus does a great job. The music, the everything is 10 times better. It's amazing. It keeps you entertained. It keeps you in the game. 100%. And you're right. $6 a beer. Come on. Stay inside. It's fine.
And you don't even have to wait in line. The lines are not even long. It's
No.
It's like the people behind me, not to go on a tangent, but the people behind me, UNI scores the first touchdown of the game. Well, I thought that Joe said that the Coyotes were good this year. I don't know. And I just wanted to turn around and be like, just wait.
Right.
Just wait. And that they'd sit down, right? And then you're just waiting for the, if I wanted to sit down and watch the game, I would have stayed at home. Like, come on.
Yeah.
Maybe that'll be my eye chart in a month.
We had Mitch responded to my eye chart moment here. The Vermilion PD tweeted something about a person who passed out in their car with their head on their steering wheel horn. We got to be better than that, people.
Yeah.
I mean,
Vermilion's not that big. You can walk home from just about anywhere, really. Come on now.
It was nice out too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Couple things here before we go. I did post this up there earlier. See if I can get this rocking and rolling again here, but a couple of Beacom faculty up here, Beacom School of Business faculty, and some of my students found one of these ones and said, hey, there's that guy. But we did have someone comment here, MW, I'm not quite sure who that is, but said that Chad Berger should win the professor of the game. So make sure to contact the provost's office if you think that's true. And we'll see if we can make that happen this basketball season and get good to go. But we also want...
You guys tag teamed and got veteran and...
Well, that would
professor.
Be almost too much to handle.
I think at that point, yeah.
Then I am an imposter. In this group.
We'll see if we can make it happen. Well, you also need to get one of these Wakanda Peach Company hats. I mean, I don't know how you don't feel like an imposter right now with missing that.
I can get you one.
I know. Next home game when I can sneak away for 10 minutes or so.
Right.
All right. Well, I think, do you guys have anything else for tonight's show?
I did want to shout out. It was this past week was a big week for women's basketball birthdays. Liv Korngable, Chloe Lamb, Claudia Kunzer, and Current Yoke, and Absolute Bucket, Alexi Hempy all had birthdays this past week. So all four of those, not only great people, but great families and just awesome people all the way around. So happy birthday to them.
All right. Jordan, any parting comments before we take off?
Yeah, guys, just, like Dr. O was saying, it's a great time to be a Coyote with the university, with athletics. Like, there's a lot of great things happening. D-Days, there were so many folks there, and it was just a lot of positivity. Just remain focused on USD and what we can do to help the student athletes get a tremendous experience at the flagship. So only 2 home football games left, right? Volleyball's got a handful of matches left. And then before you know it, basketball is here. So I know it seems like bada bing, bada boom, a lot of money, go buying tickets and stuff, but just know it's all for the U, right? So stay focused on USD and remain positive. We've got a lot of great things happening.
Amen.
All right. Well, I appreciate everyone out there in YouTube land that was able to watch the show tonight and follow along. The comments coming in are great. We love to interact with you during the show. Make sure these will be posted on YouTube. Make sure to watch the show, support us, like us on Twitter, follow along, give us retweets, all that good type of stuff. We'll try to tweet some of the things that we highlighted during the show if we can find them and get those out there. But make sure to interact with us. You can see our Twitter handles right here, but the show Twitter handle is @HowlWithUs3, @HowlWithUs3. For Jordan Decker, for Mark Wentz, I'm Chad Berger. Thanks so much for tuning in tonight. We appreciate it. And until next time, go Yotes.
Go Yotes.